Welcome to Food Shrinks.
We're just laughing because we get so distracted by life and Clarissa's
I
bling.
know. The
We forget
BT
what we're doing.
also the BTS behind the scenes of Food
That's
Tricks is
it.
so good.
Yeah.
And I think once we get 100,000 followers on YouTube, that will do BTS. And we talk about
Absolutely.
exclusively like our love lives, all the dirty,
Oh,
all the dirty you
definitely.
want to know about us, but not until we have 100,000 subscribers.
I
When we get
agree.
that, that'll be soon, and that'll
It
be
will be
great.
soon.
Yeah.
Then we'll be there. Yeah. So
Then
let's
I'll
see it,
talk about, I
Clarissa.
said I'll never talk about my love life.
It's
and
true.
I
She
will if
literally
You
just said
did.
that not that long
if we had
ago.
100,000 followers, I would maybe negotiate that boundary.
It's not
Ooh,
a threat, it's a promise.
it's a promise. It's a promise. Let's see this. Let's see this
Okay,
reindeer
so
butt
now
on
I
your
have
They're
head.
all like,
reindeer.
unsubscribe, unsubscribe. We do
Yeah.
not want to hear this.
Nobody's unsubscribing. They're here for the reindeer bottom on Clarissa's head.
Yeah, so here we
Yeah,
go,
well, speaking of my
reindeer.
love,
And I hope this isn't triggering, but it's a pug eating a Christmas tree. I
It's
hope
rude.
that doesn't trigger
I have,
anyone.
I have to go to EMDR now.
Let's hope that we're not that vulnerable in our recovery, that looking at a picture of a pug eating something on a sweater is going to be okay. Okay, today we are talking about practicing gratitude and mindfulness. So, first question. The holidays can be so focused on food. How can I shift the focus to connection and gratitude instead?
Well, a few things that I can already think of is
I
to
had something else, but
emphasize,
I don't know if
like,
I can do the podcast with it on. Okay, I'm gonna try harder. Okay, start again. Sorry.
well, but like when I think about connection, it's all about who are the people that I'm excited to see. And if they're at an event where maybe I'm not going to feel comfortable, I'm going to say, hey, can we figure out, because we have all this time off, to get together and connect in a way that's maybe not going to be so noisy and not so distracting? Because I really love like a nice holiday walk, and I love an opportunity to just have a nice tea or coffee with somebody to really talk. Like I don't really like the surface conversation, and sometimes that's what happens at parties when there's just so much noise going on. So, I will find times to make sure that I spend like quality time with people over like the quantity of time with people is one thing that I certainly do. The other thing that I think is so important when it comes to gratitude is really, to not make the gratitude surface level, that it really has to be something about thinking about a time when maybe you received gratitude that actually was very meaningful to you. Like, so for me, when I want to really connect to gratitude, I think of how when I go and volunteer, and then what that means to the parents who can't afford some of the toys and some of the things that they say to me. And that makes my whole heart warm and like my chest heat up. And that's connecting to gratitude. It's not, oh, I'm grateful for my Christmas tree. I'm grateful for my bed, right? It's like these actual beautiful moments that can happen during the holiday season. And that's real gratitude. And that I think is what shifts things for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think the question is beautiful. Yeah, I think the thing I've been saying during this round of questions is like, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So there's no magic way to get the focus off of the food and onto connection and gratitude. It's going to take some muscle. So I am all for you doing this. I want to upfront. It's not like bippity boppity gratitude. Like you're going to have to, in DBT, we call it like turn the mind. And I love what course is saying, like, it's just going to take a little bit of like stealth MacGyver work. Like, oh, you know what? Like, that cupcake shop's like not my vibe. It's too loud in there. Like, let's go to the coffee shop, right? Like, oh, does anybody want to come to this like choir concert with me? I mean, it's very possible. It just requires a bit more work because you're transforming not just your experience of the holidays, but like all your peeps. And the only thing I'll say is like we are who we hang out with, like, and I don't think we need to hang out with so many people, like very what, you know, and so I would just be also, if you're really trying to shift this perspective for yourself, do it with the people you know that want to do this with you. Like, don't try connecting to people who are like food obsessed and status obsessed right now. Maybe in 3 years, when you're like super skilled at connecting, you're super skilled at gratitude, do it with people you know are going to be like on board with you. I remember this so well in my early recovery. I really had to be selective when I was healing and I was doing these changes. I had to be so selective about who I spent my quality time with, because it would have I was too vulnerable and too raw. And it's a beautiful gift you're giving to others to do this. I just think it is elbow grease. It's not the way. Everybody just wants to go get cookies. Like, that's just the deal, right? It's like that with alcohol too. So I don't know, that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, again, you're the adult here. Like, you are the one who sets the tone for your holidays. So if you don't want the holidays to be food centered and you want them to be gratitude centered, or, connection centered, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? And go create that. For me, because as we all know at this point, right? If anybody's listened to our recent food shrinks episode, the holidays are not my favorite time of year. However, I've really I would say the past year, like since October 2023, I've really started to dive into my spiritual world. And for me, I do not necessarily connect with like this Christian idea of things. Not that I'm anti-Christian or anything like that, but I really, because those holidays hold so much negativity for me, I've really started to lean into celebrating different things. So like winter solstice or Yule, right? And like leaning into like, what do those things center around? It's about lighting a bonfire, and it's about the ending of a season and the beginning of a new one. So really like leaning into like the things that fill me up. And here's the thing, when I communicate that with my husband, with my children, with my sister, with Clarissa, whomever it might be, people are like really intrigued, and they're like, oh, I want to help you with that, or I want to participate in that, or I want to ask questions about that. And people get interested. And now it's no longer about the food. Guess what? Now we're connecting on a different level. What is that about? Whatever. So again, like thinking about what is it that you want to have happen and making it happen. You do not have to get stuck in this problem of, again, the food centered holiday. It can really be about these other things if we make it so.
I
Yeah.
love it. You're creating take like, what do they say on, do you remember the show Scandal? She's like, you control the narrative. Like that's beautiful. Like, when we're feeling a victim, which sometimes we do during the holidays, it's like we just forget that we have choices, and somehow we are involved in a choice that we need to change in that moment. I think it's exactly what you're saying, Molly P. You're like, hey, how about you start the ritual? Like, how about you get everybody connected in a different way? You can do this. And by the way, for me, it's always about like that fear of rejection. Two people makes a party.
That's it. That's it. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Okay. So what are some ways I can practice mindfulness when I'm feeling overwhelmed by food-centric holiday traditions?
Thich Nhat Hanh, I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a very famous Buddhist monk. They say, you're so busy, you're so busy. He says, I take my vacation at the doorknob. And if you watch him open a doorknob, he does. He just observes it and he opens it, and that's his vacation, you know? And I think we get this vision of what mindfulness and meditation and all of it is. And all mindfulness is a return to your wisdom. That's all it is. It's a return to your wisdom. And so it just doesn't have to be a big song and dance. It doesn't have to be like a 1 minute timer. It just has to be like there's a lot of research, there's a lot of research on the tapping, but also on the tapping of the heart, that it kind of, I'll sometimes be in something, I mean, where you can do this, maybe a larger crowd, someone will say something that's very dysregulating to me, and I'll just come back to myself. I'll just say, hey, you're here, you're here. And so the first thing I would do is like, downgrade the idea of how hard it is to get mindful, right? Like,
Right.
it's just not. You can take a vacation opening a doorknob. Like, let's not, make it so, ooh, it's like, and I think just this idea of, well, how do I return back to my heart? How do I return back to my wisdom? How do I come back to myself? One of my teachers always says, we have to call back our part sometimes, especially in the holidays with all the triggers, right? We end up sort of hemorrhaging our power, and so it's just a gentle kind of calling back and a gentle centering of finding your wisdom. And so that, we talked about this a lot in this series, but like, honest to God, Molly said it a couple episodes ago, guarantee you're not breathing or holding your breath.
Mhm. Mhm. No, it's so true. And I also think like something else that you can definitely practice is just also mindful eating, which is a
Oh,
mindfulness practice all in itself, right? That allows you to stay present. It allows you to honor your recovery. So, like before the meal, you can set an intention. What do you want from this experience? Is it connection? Is it joy? Is it nourishment? Right? And let this
into
guide
thanking your food too. I really am.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, is it that, oh, I'm going to ground myself before, like we said, with the breath, just do a little bit of breathing to just kind of put me in that more introspective, aware state. And then during the meal, are you taking time, going slow, putting your knife and fork down for a moment and having a sip of water, look around the table at all the faces of the people that hopefully you love that are sitting there with you. And, you can also be checking in with your hunger and fullness. Where am I right now? Like, if like scaling it is helpful for you, I think as well. But I think one thing is that we're missing out of this can be a delicious meal and we can eat a lot of these foods. So savor each bite, chew your food, notice the flavors, like just
Yeah.
enjoy the experience too. Because again, I would say that sometimes we just feel so like overwhelmed that like we miss the whole event. And it's just because we're in our head. And so mindfulness just lets us really like honor our body's signal and also enjoy the experience. I think it just adds to the experience rather than, anything else.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think like what we were talking about a few episodes of this ago too, like that post-event collapse piece of it, for me, it's it's the overwhelm of all the people. There are so many people in the house when I go, right? So we go for 2 weeks. There are like 2, 4, 6, 8, like 8 adults, 6 children, 3, 4, 5 dogs, whatever. Like there are all these people in this house, and it's Christmas Eve, and everybody's opening like all the presents and the kids, and it just becomes chaos. And for me, that is so overwhelming. So, it's like I like you were saying, I stop breathing. I probably dissociate to get through. And then it's like, it would be so easy then to go to the food to help bring me back or whatever it might be that I think it's going to do. It never does that. So it's about just slowing it down and breathing and reminding myself that I'm okay. I'm safe. It's fine. I might remove myself from the situation to go get grounded, go get centered. And then that's going to allow me to be more mindful and present too. But it's not always the food that's activating us, because it's not about the food. It's about the food till it's not about the food, because it's not about the food. It's about this whole thing. And so to just know, again, like you can take that break, you can come back, and that might also then help you to be more mindful and present in the moment.
Let's just also like take that definition for give me 1 second, which is when when the opposite of mindful is mindless, which means
Yeah.
effectively we've lost our mind. So keep your eye on that. No, but honestly, like just keep
Yeah,
your
no,
eye
I
on
love it.
Molly's situation. I'm like, oh, she's lost her mind. So she needs to get full of her mind again. Like think of it that way. Oh, like, and I always think about it personally like a gas tank. I'm like, oh girl, I'm at the reserves. Like the gas light's on. This is not good. I got to go get full of my mind, right? So maybe I need to open up 5 doorknobs in that moment, or, like, and I'm telling you, I have always stopped breathing or braced my breath or I'm holding my breath. It's just, it's a good thing to remind yourself, because you like, that's where the anxiety is coming from. That's where that like scatteredness is coming from. It's like your body thinks it's dying. And it's not.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So how do I prioritize self-care during the holidays so I can enjoy my time with my loved ones?
Every answer I want to be like, we just have to prioritize it, but that's not an answer. So sometimes this is like Thich Nhat Hanh. It's like perhaps in the holidays you can't get to the level of self-care that you think that you do on any average Wednesday, because there's a lot of demands on your time. I actually think that's about like a morning practice. I'm a big morning practice person. And like in an ideal day, like I love like a 20-minute like meditation and a little journaling and about 10 minutes of like I could really do like an hour 15 of minutes, but like I have a life. Girl got to do things. So I always promise myself, and again, like I think about this in a space of self-betrayal when we're not doing what we're saying we're going to be doing. That's a big self-betrayal, and it really impacts our connection to something bigger, which is all that self-care is about. I have a minimum standard for what I must do. I must give myself 5 minutes every morning that is unadulterated time with my higher power. So whatever it is, like it's usually like a reading and some breathing. I mean, I usually get more, but I think in the holidays, if this is so important to you, then make it important to you, but make it manageable and hold your word. Because the way that you can get a big hole in that gas tank and all that gas coming out of it is to not do what you say you're going to do, and to not at least gesture to yourself that you're doing self-care. So I would get like a minimum standard, because that's what it's like for me. But especially when I'm have my my kids, my timeshare kids. It's like my whole life is different. I'm like, why are all these kids screaming at me? I need to be meditating.
Right.
But you like that, Molly, right? But it's like, you know what? Even then, I'm up at 5:15 and I take those 5 minutes, right? Because I cannot do anything if I cannot tell myself the truth. And if I cannot be good to my word, I cannot do anything. So remembering that about self-care too, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's so good what you said, because I feel like they're the recovery non-negotiables. And I'm the same when the kids are here. Like Audrey sleeps in my bed with me. And so it's like about me sneaking out and like taking time and going for a walk or doing those things that I know I need, those morning endorphins. That is really, really important to me. And then for me, like I'm always pretty good about prioritizing those things, but it's like later on in the day as like the activities continue, it's remembering to do some kind of self-care check-in. And so I might even have like a checklist being like, how does my body feel right now? Because the first thing I do is like, I'm so disembodied, I go right to my head. And so it's like, okay, well, okay, there's some tension here. And then sometimes I'm like, whoa, I'm really exhausted right now. But I was just in go mode. And, when I'm in that sympathetic state, I can just continue to go. And so it is really important to me to kind of have maybe that set time of day in a very like schedule, a bit of a check in and say, where in my body, is there any place in my body right now that I feel grounded, or does my whole thing feel unsettled? Maybe what is my actual energy level right now on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
Um, and again, like, okay, if I'm thinking about my posture, does that affect how I'm feeling? Are my shoulders tight, which I often carry in my face? I clench my jaw, even though I know when I do a body scan, it's like, it's so interesting. So, they're going to ask you about the face, but every time I'm surprised when my jaw is tight. I don't know why. So
My
again,
favorite part of hanging out with Clarissa is every time she's surprised, she's tired. Clarissa hits
yeah,
a wall at a certain time of day. And when she's
Also,
surprised, I'm like, self-care,
Clarissa does
girlfriend.
more
Self-care.
before like 11 o'clock than most of us do in 3 days. So I hope she's tired. It's very
She
valid.
is. She is. She hits a wall and then like she's not thinking as clearly. Like she gets short temper, whatever. Like as we all do
yeah,
when we get tired and we hit that wall. And that's where, not to cut you off, Clarissa, but I think what I'm hearing you say, or what's really coming up for me is, I don't care where you are. I don't care what day of the week it is. I don't care if it's a holiday. Those things that you do for yourself every other day of the year still needs to happen in these moments too, whether you're in Iceland or you're in
But
Parry Sound,
I just want
Ontario.
to challenge that for a second, because I'm just telling you, with my timeshare kids, I don't have 15 minutes, but I always can find 5 minutes.
Right. I
Okay.
mean, I'm not saying it's the
So that
same amount
maybe
of time.
we're
It's going to be
adjusting the definition
right.
of self-care for the holidays.
Sure.
We're making a reasonable thing that we know we can do. No, every
Yes.
single person can find in 5 minutes.
Right. That's what I'm saying. No matter where you are, you take that with you.
Yes.
So, you know, I was recently on a couple different road trips. I didn't have time to journal in the way that I would want to journal,
Right.
but I was like making myself notes anyway as I could. You know, it's like because those are the
Yeah.
little non-negotiables. Those are the bits that fill your cup back up. I mean, that's what self-care is. It's literally checking in with yourself like you would the 14-year-old that you're taking to a movie. Like, hey, do you need to go to the bath? Do you need water? Do you like
Molly, that is
check in with
such
yourself?
an important story. That's like the story of the question, right?
Right.
Molly's
It's
like,
like, what
well, I
do I
can't
need
do it
right now?
all the way, but I'm gonna honor this promise that I made to myself. Mark my word. Like she's fighting for her self-care. So it's like the way that you like you just make like that's what it is to heal. Like that's what it is to make sure that you're not betraying yourself. Is to like fight for yourself. Say, I can't write 3 pages of morning pages, but I can sure jot down some notes because that's important to me. That's amazing. I'm
Totally.
gonna tell that story. I should probably pay you royalties on that story. I'm gonna tell it so many times.
That's all good. It's all good. You know, I think the thing that I do want to say about self-care though and around holidays and is this. Once I think when we're so used to not giving ourselves self-care, it's really hard to wrap our heads around like how are we going to do that? How are we going to even find 5 minutes? How are we going to but so many people need me, right? There's all kinds of narrative going on. And I guess the thing that I want to try to encourage you to think about or I want to offer you is this. I was the person that could never find that time that believed that like I wasn't important enough, whatever it was. But then like something changed. I don't know if I like loaned trust to somebody. I don't know what the thing was, but now that I do that, I cannot imagine like I crave it. Like I start getting itchy. And Clarissa, I think you do too. I start getting itchy if I can't get outside, if I can't touch a tree, if I can't journal, if I whatever those things are that I need and I don't have to do all 100 things every single day. But if I don't have a little bit of something, I start going nuts. Sometimes it's literally like, hey, it's 4:45. Let's go look at the sunset. That's it.
Right.
How long does it take to look at the sunset? Right. Like if you can give that to yourself, you are going to like, then you are going to always want it and you're going to find a way. So give
My
yourself the
son
2 minutes, give
in
yourself the 5
AA,
minutes.
she'd be like, but I'm away with my boyfriend. Like, what, how do I pray in the morning? I was like, lock yourself in the bathroom, girl. Like, no worries. But like literally, you can meditate in the bathroom for 3 minutes. Like, you're fine. We got this. We are crafty individuals. You know, we're addicts. We get what
I
we
was
want.
gonna say
We're
we've been
well.
sneaking around for so long.
I've snuck more food. I can sneak a meditation in. No problemo. Don't you worry. I can sneak in a journaling session. Steal a bag of cookies from a drawer. Certainly
Yeah.
find yourself a journal, you know?
So good. That's so
Love
good.
it.
Clarissa, I cut you off earlier. Were you complete? I'm so sorry.
I'm
You are
always
complete.
complete when you're
Right
around.
here. She's complete right here. She's got the
All
gratitude.
right.
connection
Well,
here.
then we should wrap this. And if you have more questions, ask the shrinks at foodshrinks.com. We want to answer your questions. And we do have more coming. They may not be holiday specific, but we have had people writing in asking us all kinds of questions. So we're going to continue to answer them. And you're only going to be able to find the answers here on YouTube. So be sure to
Only on
subscribe.
YouTube. Mwah!
Thanks for listening to Food Shrinks. Quick reminder, this podcast isn't a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for guidance suited to your needs. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach others on the recovery journey. Take care and remember, freedom with food is possible. See you next time.